Hi there, guys. My name is Jonathan,
I'm Colette.
I'm Caylee.
I'm Logan.
and we are here to kind of doing a discussion Q&A to talk more about our testimonies, our stories, and also just our walks with Christ now after our decision. So, Logan, I think you had the first question.
Yeah, open up. So, our first question is, when you came to know Jesus, was there a large difference in how friends and family saw you? Like, what did that look like when you started seeing people again? Did they notice a difference, or like, how did it look?
Yeah, so I was known in high school as the mean girl. I was very angry toward a lot of people. And I remember like meeting people after I came back to my relationship with the Lord when I was 25. And a couple of them were like, man, you're like actually nice. And I was like, yeah, I'm so sorry about like all that. And it's just so crazy how you go from literally not wanting to be anyone's friend and you're everyone's friend and people think you're nice and they can actually approach you in conversation, which is awesome.
I would say for me, I went to ECU before, and it's a little bit more of a livelier school. And so my group of friends also relied heavily on that. And so when I came to know Jesus, there's certain things that I just didn't do anymore. And so those friends just kind of fizzled. Wish them the best, but
Yeah.
they're gonna be watching this probably. But yeah, and then family, like, I think when you see someone who's starting to follow Jesus, you start asking questions like, is the way that I'm living following Jesus? So in that way, it was eye-opening for everyone and myself. So
Similar to the friend thing you had as well. When I came to know Jesus, there were a couple different things that happened. My family have noticed this like difference of joy it makes. It was always really sad and upset growing up, and it's just like they saw a kid who was also always introverted become really extroverted all of a sudden out of nowhere. And it was like it was my spark for passion. It was like, I want people to know this. And I had a lot of bad influence of friends who none of them had gone to Liberty. When I went home, I distanced myself from them, and it was less of like I wanted them to know Jesus and whatnot, but I just felt at the time it was going to be a bad step for me to go back into that this time. And so later, like now, I hang out with these friends and I meet them again, and it's a whole different interaction. I felt like when I was first a believer, God was just like, don't go back to this, not yet. And so there was like this big change in how I acted and how people saw me, and those friends, they're like, well, why not? And it brought up all these questions and sometimes some anger from people too. It's just like, well, you're not going to do this. What are you better than us? I'm like, well, it's not what I.
yeah.
And it's just the attitude of people definitely shifted, all because I accepted Christ. It's like this immense shift in people's attitudes towards me,
Yeah.
And I guess for me, answering that question, because my kind of coming to salvation was also kind of a decision also to live, like physically, with abandoning suicide. So also part of that, I feel like it's kind of a revival as a whole, both spiritually and physically, in that people were noticing like you're a lot happier, you're hanging out a lot more, which is part of that physical side, but then also what I was conversating with them in terms of wanting to do Bible studies and wanting to have these discussions with my friends, especially with some of the ones who I knew were dealing with the same depression issues that I was dealing with, like, oh my goodness, I have the answer kind of thing. And so that light up that just comes from which was also kind of cool, and just that it was also that physical part as well. It's like, oh, I get to live and then live for Christ. It was awesome.
Yeah, I think like once you experience it, you just don't shut up about it. Yeah. And you want everyone to see it and know it.
I guess to go off of that, like, how was it with, okay, you're going from depression or anxiety or panic attacks and you found the Lord, and it doesn't happen overnight where those go away. So what was that journey like for you guys with dealing with those emotions that were so strong during that time?
I'd say for me, I'm an overthinker. I have anxiety, still do. I still struggle with that. And that'll be probably something that I struggle with for the rest of my life, just because of the way that I'm wired. But at the same time, the way that I used to struggle with it is so different now, just because I know that if God has a plan, if the God who created the earth, the universe, everyone in it, He has a plan for every single step in my life. And that even if I I used to always think if I took a wrong step, then it was going to mess up God's plan. So that caused me so much anxiety. And then I just became stagnant, and like I didn't take a step at all. And so understanding that God's bigger than that, and He has an overarching plan, that helps me immensely. So, I don't know.
I think for me, it's post decision and post like not wanting to do suicide. Suicide's no longer on the table. It's like, okay, living for Christ. Okay. Well, living with suicide as like an option, the option for so long, taking that off the table, it kind of was also a natural way in that, okay, there's only Christ now. Like there's only Christ. But still dealing with those feelings of, like I said, this option that I had for so long is no longer there. So it's like, okay, kind of how do I live? How to live kind of thing. And so when like the harder times would come, which back when I was depressed, shoot, a bad grade or just someone looking at me the wrong way would honestly like throw my head into disarray. But like the amount of things that I had experienced post coming to Christ that have been so like hard on my life. But again, what are my options? Okay, have to live. Yep, that's it. And then there's Christ. So it's like I have to live for Christ. And so it's the only way what I have to turn to. And so when those emotions and stuff come up to me, it's kind of like just an automatic, like the table's already wiped and there's already one piece. So it's like constantly just picking up the piece.
Yeah. I would say for me, the thing I struggled with when I talked about in my testimony was my will versus God's will. Because it was, when I came to Christ on there, I was like, God, I want to serve you. I want to honor and glorify you. And then I had this tension of this, like, my whole life, it had been basically me against the world is how I saw it, And this sudden tension was just like, no, that's not what I want anymore. But my whole life, I've been wired this way, to think this way and observe. So I started this long struggle with giving up myself and serving Christ on there. And that was actually really hard to do. Because I desperately wanted it, but I was fighting it the entire way it went. I desired to do whatever I wanted to do and have God be fine with that. God's like, that's not how this works. And that really hit me. It said when I came back overseas, when I was overseas and I came back overseas the first time, it really just hit me. It's like, God will ask me. He asked me, what are you willing to give up to follow me? And that's when I started to see real change in me as a progression of salvation, progressing salvation on there. I started to give up these things and said, okay, this is going to be really difficult, but I am going to give this up. And, that's when I saw God just like, working in my life and changing me along the way as I went.
Jumping onto that, because remember your testimony of like, you were like, oh, God, I'm not going to do this. And then He like walked you through all these different situations to where like, nope, you're going to do this thing. And like everything worked for that. Going back to like your life as a board kind of thing, and there are all these different pieces. The struggles that come up for me, because I'm definitely in that boat in terms of like, okay, God's giving you the story, but who is actually the writer? Do you think it's you or do you think it's God? And when the struggles come for me is when I start trying to add the different pieces, and I'm finding that part of the submitting to God is you removing the pieces. And I have found when I don't do that, God does the clean swipe.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times where I'm like, no, I'm not, I'm going to do my own thing. And then like He takes away everything and goes, no, it's me and you. That's it. I'm going to keep doing this until we get it right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think that like concept of letting the Lord rebuild my mind was huge for me and pivotal for me. I struggled with panic attacks quite a bit, especially when I moved here 5 years ago. I was still struggling with panic attacks, and I had to just get rid of every distraction. I mean, the music that I listen to, the movies that I watch, the conversations that I have. Like, I have to be really, really careful with everything, because if I let something back in that I might have loved before, like I was a huge Lil Wayne fan, can't listen to him anymore because he puts my mind in a place that I don't want to be at. And I start having anxiety. I start getting panic attacks when I start letting those things back into my life. And I have to just be so focused on God and what He wants for my life. And I think I love the examples that David gives in the Psalms, and how, man, how much anxiety he must have had in all the things that he did. But then you look at God's goodness in his life when he was just like, Lord, this is yours. And like, I just need to focus on you and on your goodness and on your glory. And the amount of freedom that you get from that, where like I haven't had a panic attack in 4 years. I still struggle with anxiety now and then, but like I can find joy in my anxiety. I can find joy in the struggle. And I didn't used to be able to say that. Yeah. So I think that rebuild is huge.
Yeah. I love what you said about like removing certain distractions. Because like at least for me too, when I came to like and I gave my life to Jesus, yes, it felt like a 360, but at the same time, I had addictions, substance abuse problems, so many things that like I had to make the choice of to get rid of and to stop, which is obviously so hard to do. And so I wish I could say it was like instant, but the more that I focused on the things that I knew weren't pleasing to God and trying to quit them myself, that was when, I feel like I just ended up doing it more. So it wasn't until I think 2 months after was when I made the decision to be like, okay, this is about to be hard as crap. I'm the one moving my feet, yes, but I've tried to quit many times before that. And so it wasn't until I like let God move my feet. Yes, I'm the one doing it, but at the same time, he was the one who made it last. And so through like the withdrawals and all of that, like it really was him who was sustaining me in all of that. So, but removing distractions is so important.
How did your guys' view of God change from before you came to Christ, and then how did it change after you came to Christ?
At least for me, I think we probably are similar with our view on God before. I know you said that you blamed him for a lot, or had a lot of resentment. For me, like I genuinely, like I would use the word hate, like I hated him. I thought that he was putting me through everything, or like, the question of like, okay, if God is real, like that means that, and if he is sovereign and he is omnipresent, yada yada, like then he should be able to, stop me from going through the stuff. But yeah, I think now I see him as a loving father. And looking back, I can see him in every single aspect of my life, even when I thought he wasn't there. I just chose to ignore him every time. So that's, at least for me, I know we're similar.
Yeah, similar asking how seeing God. I mean, in my case on there, I grew up thinking God was plainly, I thought he was just kind of a jerk, because my perspective, I said this in the testament on there, I looked at other people, and the only thing I really knew was that these people were like, yeah, we're Christians, we follow God, so that, they should reflect God. And I saw in all of them the same thing, and they were just really mean, they were bullies. And so this is kind of how I insult God. I immediately dubbed God to be like the major bully in the scenario. He's the bully of everybody. And so that's how I went living my life thinking of that. Now, when I came to Christ, I understood who he was and what he did for me. Again, I felt really broken. I was on my knees. I felt like I had been lied to my whole life. At that moment, I recognized that's not who he is. I saw love, and I had never seen that, like this image of love like that before. I never even thought it was possible. And so, interestingly, when I saw people after that, it was different seeing people. I saw people who would say they were Christians on there, they grew up in a church and whatnot, but they didn't generally know Christ. And it wasn't like thinking it was bullies or different things. I saw them as broken people who don't know what love is. My perspective on seeing people change as I saw who God was. And that was like an immediate response. That day I accepted Christ, I took a walk, and I just saw walking people on campus, and I felt different looking at people, and it felt really painful actually to look at people who were just like, yes, we're Christians, but they don't really believe it and whatnot. It was like, if only you actually knew what it was, like if you saw what true love was in that instead of playing a role, that's kind of how my perspective on God changed and how it affected me. Even instantaneously that day, how I started seeing people differently in the light of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Felt like he wasn't even there. Like it just didn't even feel like he cared. I mean, I was 20 to 25. I was jumping from abusive relationship to abusive relationship, and I would see these girls at my church, and they would have these families and these husbands that were so sweet and respectful and kind. And I was just like, so you don't care about me, dude. Like, you don't care. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do to like get what these girls are getting and be respected the way that these girls are being respected in relationships. And then I come back to my relationship with the Lord, and I look at Samson and his example when the Lord left him. And that's how I felt. I felt like the Lord had completely left me. And I was just like, I had to do it all by myself. And then you find the Lord, and it's like, oh my gosh, he's the most precious thing in my life. But like, I know that his plans are best, and that why I'm still single, why I'm not in a relationship with that person that I want to be in a relationship with or whatever, like, God is still so good, and he is protecting me at this point in my life, and I'm so thankful for that. And I'm just like, I would not go back and change anything, because I would not be the woman that I am today if I hadn't gone through what the Lord allowed me to go through. But like, my goodness, he's the most precious thing in my life.
Jumping on with that, similar to in that I didn't think that he was there, like at all. But if he was there, he was a harsh, judgmental father who did not care. Because I knew I got to the truth and be like, yeah, I can't measure up because of sin. And then I stopped there, which is a horrible place to be. And so, like, that's all you're thinking God is. It's like just this vengeful father that just won't accept you, and then ultimately just leave you there where you are. And you talk about in terms of the weight that just comes off, like, Paul talked about in Galatians in terms of, like, we're no longer under the law, like, that weight is on us is gone, that we don't have to live under that, because he saved us from that weight, that sin, that damnation, that judgment. And going forward, now it's like, oh, this is what, like, living is. This is what life is. This is what it can be with. This is what a relationship is. And, like, rethinking of going, he wasn't pushing me away all that time. The harsh truth is that I was running and I was pushing him away. And that once I finally accepted him, like, he gave me the biggest squeeze I kind of feel like that's what the weight coming off is, just him, like, absolutely squeezing, like, me like a sponge, and all that stuff just comes out. And then he can fill me with his spirit.
For you guys, how has community been a role within your walk with Christ?
Huge. Yeah, my community used to be pot smokers and people that just had sex all the time. And now my community is girls that want to go to the gym together and talk about Jesus. And my guy friends are constantly encouraging me in, like, Christ. And my goodness, the amount of friends that I have now. I had 0 friends when I was 25 and I came back to my relationship with the Lord. I didn't have a single friend. And now I have, like, way too many. And I'm like, wait, I can't hang out with all of you, but I love you. But, like, oh my gosh, yeah. The relational aspect is huge. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I'd say community for me, it's been really awesome, because I went from a bad background of having all these friends with, smoking girls, all these different things. And when I became a believer, I didn't have a huge community right away. In fact, my thing was like looking for someone who could teach me or walk me through this, because I knew nothing. But as I started to see a community, it's really cool. You can see Christ's kingdom being built, and it's really cool. You feel like the kingdom, when you're just gathered with believers. And it's like I travel a lot, and I'll travel to new places, and I'll go to churches on there, and I can meet people, and you can see the spirit in them, and it's just immediately, it's just like, this is a brother and sister. Like, my head is immediately like, we're family.
Yeah.
And you can feel that connection on there, and you meet them, you get to know them and stuff, and you're seeing the kingdom as you go. And so community for me is really cool, because I get to see it in a lot of different places as I travel out there. And I love it. It's awesome to actually see that in person.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's mandatory.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it has to be. It's mandatory. Like, I can't imagine my life without it. I mean, one of the biggest things was coming to Lynchburg in terms of, like, finding a community, and then finding like this community with Bible studies on Fridays, and then finding the church that I go to now, building that up. It's if you don't have community, I find it really hard to serve.
Yeah.
And when you're not serving, that's a really dangerous area because then you only have time to focus on self, and that's a killer. Like I find for myself, when I'm not serving, like I end up in that attitude, and that is where everything goes crap. Like every time, I go like, oh wait, I haven't served in a while. That's why. And so like being a part of that is not only to be filled, which is awesome, hearing the word, having people, but then also to serve. Like there's someone else may be going through the exact same thing you're going through, or like always find the first timers. Like the first person there, it's like, all right, you're gonna be my best friend for today. Like I'm not gonna let you escape. Like we're gonna be uncomfortable together.
Yeah, I would say it's community is so important because also, at least for me, like a Christ-centered community is probably like the main help for me that was able to take me to the next step of like following certain convictions. Because it's so easy to have a conviction and then sit with it yourself and then find excuses on, why I can't do that right now. But having accountability and people who are ultimately trying to reach the same goal, which is just glorifying God, is so important. Finding people who have a same common goal, and ultimately, iron sharpens iron.
Yep.
The more we hang out with people who we want to be like, the more we're going to grow, and vice versa. And knowing that people are praying for you and actually mean it, is a lot.
Yeah, we were made for community, and I remember this kind of striking me. Really, a pivotal point in my life on there when I was still in school when I was excavating, when I was alone. So I was doing ministry overseas, but I would travel different places, and I'd be alone with nearly all atheists, some Muslims here and different things, and in some countries, particularly where God or Jesus was just not accepted at all, just not a thing. But that wouldn't stop me. But it felt so much harder when I didn't have a family or community there. Like when I was with a community in a place like that, it's just the presence together. It's like you feel the Spirit gather. It says where three or more gathered there the Spirit is. And you could see it. I remember witnessing that because I would be alone for like 2-3 months and I would just feel like I was getting attacked everywhere, physically and spiritually. And then when I go back to the team and I pray and talk with the team, you just feel that weight start to lift off. And then we were made for that community and kingdom to be together. And I'm reminded too in Acts 13, where they would gather, and it says they were, sometimes think fasting and praying is like a solo thing, but it's like they fasted together, they prayed together, they fasted and prayed again, they fed people off, and it's like, it's together. It's all about the community. It's all about the kingdom being built together. And I talked about a lot of missionaries, and it's like, well, I want to go solo. And like, that's not a good idea. And it's like, well, Paul did. I said, Paul took a lot of people with him. And there's reasons for that. He would take people to train them as they went, but also as brother and sister because he saw the community that was with there in the kingdom that he was building together. And so that was something that really hit me later on. That wasn't like an immediate thing. I had a community, but I had seen it as like, oh, I'll be fine. And I quickly learned that that's not the case. Yeah. We need that community because we were made to be a kingdom together, a community.
So looking forward now, like what do you see God doing in your life and what are you excited for the future?
Honestly, everything I can't even. I like to have control over my life. I want to know every single step before I take it, and that honestly, when I am in that mindset, that's when I have like the least control. When I honestly just try not to even think about the future and just like let God, that's when I feel the most control because it's not, me that's having it. But I see him in every aspect. Like, for example, I'm in school for future ministry. I have no clue what that's going to look like. I know the type of people that I want to minister to, but I don't know the exactly what I'm going to do. And I also don't think that there's one overarching thing. I think there's certain periods of my life the Lord's going to use me in certain aspects of that. So just kind of being in cruise control and letting him take it, honestly, is when I'm the most excited for my future. And knowing that, again, his plan is overarching. So, yeah.
So for me, my big thing in terms of this next chapter, I guess you could say, is spent over the past 2 months adding some pieces to the board. And God has spent the last 2 months like a cat swiping them away. And I think I've learned the lesson. And so I am currently right now struggling forward in terms of not trying to place any more pieces and to let his piece stay on the board and let him move. I mean, similar aspect. I am a planner. I will have all the details, like, let's go. But this next chapter is going to require me not to know a lot of the pieces when I make a move. It's a Abraham kind of situation. Go. So I am very excited in that I can recognize this is a big area of growth for me in terms of a next chapter. But my gosh, is it hard. And so struggling, but I'm struggling forward. Hopefully not fall on my face too much.
Yeah, for me, I said on there, like, God had called me 3 years ago. Like 3 weeks ago, he made it clear on there. So he called me to a location overseas, and I don't can like give all the details here on specifically the place, but it's a place where Jesus is just not accepted, and the people who are believers there are outcast and persecuted there. And part of it is like, I'm all in. Part of me is like, okay, well, what do I need to know? What do I need to do? And so now it's really just praying and waiting for God to be like, hey, this is when I want you to go. You waited. I've had you preparing, and now I have the place, but I want you to wait for when I want you to go. Don't jump the gun. And that's, again, similar thing. It's just like, it's kind of like, okay, I'm ready. Let's go. It's like, nope, just wait. You know, he's like, in the time, I will make a way for that. And so that's kind of for me where it is. In the meantime, while I'm here, it's going wherever he has for me here at the time and being faithful where he has me, sharing the gospel and ministering, discipling the people I meet anywhere and everywhere it is. And that's kind of what it is for me at the time being right now.
One more thing I want to add on is that even from the testimony videos that we made, I did not realize how many people struggle with certain things that I struggled with. And so I am starting to prayerfully think about, my next steps, about spreading awareness, especially with struggling with lifelong STD diseases, sexual sin, certain things like that are taboo to talk about, especially in women. And so I think that God's really laying that on my heart to talk about. And sometimes God moves and I get uncomfortable and embarrassed, but hey, it's for his kingdom, so it's fine.
I love that, though. It's an awesome heart to have. I think that's been one of the things with surrender is, like, I don't really know where God's going to put me, and I don't really care. Like, let's do it. I don't really care. But I just, man, I have such a heart for kids because being abused as a kid, there's a lot that goes in with that. I have a heart for women. I mean, being raped is huge, and so many women don't talk about it. And I understand why. Like, it's a scary thing to have to actually talk about, but, like, I want to be the voice that somebody else maybe needs to hear. And so for me, it's like, well, I'm in Lynchburg. God has me in Lynchburg, and I'm going to get to know the women in Lynchburg. I'm so freaking excited. I'm going to volunteer with a homeless shelter here in Lynchburg, and I'm so pumped because that's where these women are going to be. And, like God gave me that opportunity to be able to do that. And my goodness, that's my heart. But, like, just to be able to be a voice. And I think that's huge, especially in women, because of the fear of the abuser finding them. That's a big thing. I mean, even me doing the testimony video, we talked about this, me doing the testimony video was terrifying because my abusers could find where I live now. So, like, don't love that, but it's for God's glory. So, like, bring it on. I don't really care. It's for God. Yeah. And I think that's where God has me. He just has me. I'm just here. I'm just living in it. And I'm like, all right, Lord, I will go wherever you need. I will do whatever you need. And as long as it's with women and kids, I'm in. Let's do it.
I love how there's, like, anxiety when we talk about it for every single one of us, like the next steps. but yet every single one of us are talking about what we're going to do for God, and everyone's face just lights up.
Yeah.
Because that's the ultimate reason,
Yeah.
So there can be anxiety for something, but at the same time, the reason as to why is so much more important.
So true.
Do you guys mind if I pray us out?
Oh, wow.
Heavenly Father, Lord Jesus, Holy Spirit, thank you so much for this day. Thank you so much for this conversation, God. Thank you for all four of us and the stories that you've given to us, and all the hardships that we've gone through, and the decision that we have made to have that relationship with you, and just the love that you've poured into us, the peace and the courage and the hope that you've poured into us, and that we now, in this moment with this discussion, with our testimonies, and then going forward with the rest of our lives, we get to pour that out to others, Lord. God, I ask for courage for us four as we continue to live in your way, as we don't know for many of the chapters that are coming forward. We have no clue what the answers are, but that we operate in faith and trust you, Lord. And for those who watch this, pray for them, Lord, if they don't know you, that you would just reach out and touch their heart, Lord, open their minds, and that they would come to know you and experience that relationship that we have all experienced. And if they have and are struggling, that they also too be encouraged by the conversations and the testimonies that we have given, and that they know that you love them and you care for them, and that you're right there with them, even in the hardest of battles. God, I just want to lift you up and thank you so much. And in your name, amen.
And that was great.